Hey, oh, look, there's big, huge lights and fires and fireworks. And baby, you're a firework. Hey, it's Thursday night. Welcome to Plausible Deniability. I'm Michael Cross.
I'm Brook Firework Bullock.
It's just you
Woo! Good
are.
to see you guys. Good to see you
It
guys.
is so good to be here. And unfortunately, it's just the two of us because Johnny's having some dealing with some work stuff. And,
That's right.
and
That's
Aiden
right.
is dealing with some work stuff. He has to
I
work.
know. You become important and or you want money,
Yeah.
and this gig's still free. So sometimes you got to make choices. We miss them. We hope they come back
Yeah.
soon.
Yeah, yeah. So and see, right now I know we saw Don Mills is out there on the
He's still
chat.
there.
I
Woo!
don't know if we got anyone else out there. If you're out there, make sure and say hi to us on the chat because we're old and we don't know how this stuff works. So we're just having a blast. Hey, there's a lot of stuff going on in the world of D&D, and in just a month and a half, there's the new Players Handbook dropping.
Woo!
And we're going to have to talk about that. But if I want to check that, if we're going to do that, then I have to check my notes. So hold on a second while I check my notes here.
We knew it. Oh, you did not go to Gen Con and leave the rest of us behind. What is that? I mean, I know what it is. That's so exciting.
It's
Someone has a connection.
I do. Dear friends of mine, Rob and Karen Steele, who I play with on Friday nights, went to Gen Con. And they
That's
said,
awesome.
"Oh, we'll get you one." So I went in and it's $50, but
Yeah.
to get 6 weeks ahead of time, um, it's just and it is amazing, and I have a lot to talk about here. So I know there were things we were going to talk about, but I have read through the book now.
Yes.
Not all the way through. I have read all the way through. I have read cover to cover, but not in the sense of actually studying.
Right.
So there's a lot of stuff to unpack here. So let me
Sorry.
just start by saying, first off, it is if you've never played before, this
Yeah.
is going to be an incredible book for you.
Awesome.
You are going. This is so much better. I wish that they'd had this when I first started playing fifth edition in 2017.
Right.
But I came into fifth edition kind of having some knowledge of how Dungeons and Dragons works.
Right.
But if you don't have any knowledge of how Dungeons and Dragons works, the Players Handbook, the 2014 Players Handbook, isn't actually that good. There's a lot of things that's just not really said in there.
Yeah.
And this one, it puts it all together for you, especially in the very first chapter where it talks just about playing the game.
Yeah.
So much more in depth than you get in any player's handbook. Makes me really excited about the DM's guide.
In what way, when you say like play in the game, is it kind of the flavor text sort of like these rules are guidelines, do what's best for your table, or is it like the red box of like use your imagination and enter a world?
No, it breaks down how to be a player, how to be a dungeon master, which dice are you using,
Yeah.
what are
So
ability
very
checks, what does it mean, what's a D20 test, what's proficiency, it is, and it goes through, and then it goes through social interaction, exploration, combat. Everything is all in the first chapter of how to play this game. If
so
you're
for brand new folks, it's going to be a really great resource.
This is going to be an incredible resource. It's also going to be good for us as experienced DM players because if somebody comes to our table for the first time and they've read just the first chapter, because they can come to us later and creating a character, but if they've read the first chapter, they're going to have a pretty good idea of what's going on at that table, which most people don't. You can read all the way through the 2014 Players Handbook and even maybe scrape together a character and still not really know what's going to go on. But this first chapter really goes through everything you need to know. Now, that said, I have some problems with it.
Yeah.
The setup is all wrong. So so then you go into create a character. Makes sense, right? What you want to do? First thing you want to do is make a character. So what's the first thing you do when picking a character?
First thing I do, old school wise, is I roll dice, but I know that's not the right answer. The first thing I do is pick my class.
See, now I go the opposite way. Then you might be perfect for this book. Because my first thought is you pick a species.
Now that's the old school way to do it. Yeah.
Only because it's the first thing that happens to your character in its life long before they choose a job. They got to be born.
I know a spoiler though, and I think I have the answer for why the book's in that order.
Right. So to explain, first off, why I'm saying this is, the first thing you do in this book is pick your class, and then you pick your background, and then you pick your species. And I'm like, okay, I understand why they're doing that, because you are okay. Explain that. So you've got to.
Well, so word on the street, because Michael hasn't invited me over to his house yet to look at the book. And by the way, we can't show pictures of it. Can't show pictures up to the screen. We might get into that little chat a little bit later. The couple big time YouTubers got copy striked. One of them, Wizards has backed off of, but Jordan, the PH is silent, and Sly Flourish both got copy striked by Wizards for showing pages during their approved review. So anyway, that was a side tangent, which we can chase if we want to for a second, but we'll come back to it. The thing that's interesting is that now your ability score boosts are not tied to your racial background, to your species.
Right.
They're tied to how did you grow up? What's your background?
Yeah.
Are you an artisan? Are you a charlatan? Are you a craftsman?
Mm-hmm. Now, I totally agree with that idea, because it should be.
It's an interesting idea. I love it.
Yeah, it should be totally tied to your background. So I totally agree with that. I think it is a great idea. I also do like the fact that backgrounds you start with a feat. I think the more feats we can have, it's better. It makes the game more entertaining. Yeah.
I want this Michael Cross, who now has the knowledge of how it works, to debate Michael Cross from a year ago, who was like, I don't know feats, they're just too many. But that means learning and growing. It's a good thing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
But
I'm just teasing you for a minute.
Here's the thing. Yes. So the rules are very clear. Not only in Connor, not only in the very first chapter, but in the back of it, there's a glossary that has it's a rules glossary. Ability check, awesome? Action, attitude. It's got all of your conditions. It's all right here. Your damage types, your hazards, your hit point dice, everything that you could whenever. Oh, one of the things that I loved, by the way, one of the things that's mentioned under B.
Aggressive. Be aggressive. No.
Yes. Bloodied.
Go on.
Bloodied.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. Bloodied is, the answer is, a creature is bloodied when it has half its hit points or fewer remaining. Now, Aiden uses this all the time.
Yeah,
right. And we use that as players when we say, hey, we're below half points. We say, oh, we're bloodied.
Yeah.
Kimberly had no idea that was from D&D itself. And I said, because in 2014, bloodied is mentioned in a small little section of the DM's guide under alternate rules that you might use. Really? Possibly. Yeah, because bloodied comes from the 3.5 rules. That's when it first came out, was bloodied. But 5e decided to just drop it. We're not going to do bloodied. Okay. But then you get to a lot of the abilities, especially as a cleric, where you can only heal somebody if they are less than half their hit points. So in the 2014 book, it all says if they have less than half their hit points. Guess what it says in the 2024 one?
If they're bloodied.
If they're bloodied. Just shortened it.
Nice.
So very excited about that. Yeah, all the rules, Connor, are all in one place. So that's very nice. There are, again, some. I don't like the fact that you choose your class first. I still think you should.
I'm with you.
You should choose your species first. You should choose your background next, because even if you're not figuring out ability scores, but I mean, it all happens. It all comes jumbled together anyway.
And there's, I know that, and maybe this is not the reason why, right? But I know some other systems take a little bit of this, like take your background and you get an ability score boost from that, and take your species and you get an ability score boost from that, and then your class, choose one of these boosts, right? And that's the way Pathfinder 2E builds. And so maybe to do that would have been too similar, right? Maybe they would have kind of had a reverse infringement there. But I'm with you. I love the idea of like maybe the background gives you feats and then the species is how you get your ability score boosts. But I'm not gonna complain on it too much, because with the right creative style, you now can have in some weird fashion, you can have those weird things where you have an orc who's raised by elves and he has these elven kind of traits from his background, even though he's orc, right? So nature and nurture, it's a big debate. In real science, we don't even know which is more important yet.
No, and I think the ability scores, I think tied to background is a much better idea. I think it's a great idea. I think the feats even tied to the backgrounds, which that's where you get your feats, is from your background as well. So I think that's a fantastic idea. Here's the thing that, when it comes to species, that I'm really bothered by, and it'll probably bother me until the day I die. So just letting you know, I might complain about it forever. So here it is in species.
Yeah,
we do know this. Let me pull up the species. Let me get over to species. The sorcerer. There we go. Okay, so
we're playing the Great Karnak tonight. I think I know what you're gonna say, but we'll see if I'm right.
So the species are Aasimar, Dragonborn, Dwarf, Elf, Gnome, Goliath, Halfling, Human, Orc, and Tiefling.
There you go.
Anyone missing?
I know. I think I know exactly which ones are missing, if I'm right. And I will say it in a semi-rude way, which is why they took it out. Where are all the halvesies?
Where are all the halvesies? Now, I understand why they didn't do it.
But yet, at the same time, come on, have some guts,
Well, it's not. Here's the thing. Here's the thing.
Teach people with it.
There are things that stay with that are part of Dungeons and Dragons, and half elf, half orc are part of it. Now
they are.
When they were doing 1D&D, they explained. They said, "Now here's what we're going to do. We're going to say those. If you want to say your father's an elf and your mother's a human, great. You just have traits from one or the other.
Yeah.
So you're a half elf, yes, but you will have the traits that are listed here as elf or human. Here's the problem. Ready for this one? It's not in the book.
I know.
So I'm totally cool with that rule. That's fine. Put it in the book. If we're all worried about these rules things, say, by the way, you can say that your mother was elven and your father was human, and that you are actually a half elf. But you have to choose one of the two. You can do that with any of them. You can do it with Dragonborn. You can say your mother was a Dragonborn, your father was an elf, but you have Dragonborn, so you take the Dragonborn traits.
Now you're an elf with psoriasis. Like, you got some scaly stuff going on.
But it is not in the book. I have looked at.
In my opinion, they missed a fantastic opportunity to, within reason, talk to your table and talk to your dungeon master. But in campaign 1 of Red Dirt, Gideon was half
elf, and so was Zonimus.
But he was half elf, half
orc, right?
And so you could really do some great mixing there. In in Dark Suns, they had half human, half dwarves, which were called mules, right? In a very like kind of rude in that environment, a really rude
Dark
slang.
Sun was a horrible place. Yes.
Yeah, because that they were not fertile. They couldn't have offspring on their own, right?
Right.
As a species. And and that was fantastic, right? I
Yeah.
mean, it's just
So
they in
yeah,
my opinion, they missed an opportunity to really add some lore and flavor to the world.
yeah,
And
and there was and
you
I
know,
and it the thing is, folks, wizards, guys, a paragraph.
yeah,
Literally, a paragraph is all it would have taken for you to say, by the way, if you would like to say your parents, you're of mixed heritage, that's great. Just pick one trait. Boom. I just solved that problem with that sentence.
pick one trait. Pick one trait from either side. Boom.
And,
You have this trait or a feat or however it works in the 2024
but
edition, right?
it's out. And it's like, so, folks, I'm just, here's the thing. If you've never played D&D out there, folks, you're going to love this book. If you've played it before, you're going to have some issues. I can tell you that right now. You're going to have
Yep.
some issues.
So
The
with that, is there anything I didn't mean to interrupt,
No,
but
no.
with that in is there anything about like what's a good like legacy content? Is that a good way to phrase that? Is there any way to like I know they have officially said before the book's out, hey, if you want to keep playing with the 2014 Players Handbook, you can totally do that. It meshes. But is there any comment or like official paragraph opinion that you've seen so far? I know you haven't
Oh,
perused the whole thing
I
yet.
looked for that.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, we do, I do have a problem with that as well. So
Oh,
there is no how to use, for example, a necromancer wizard
yeah.
with a 2014 subclass with a 2024 class. Nothing in here on that.
Mm.
Um, there's nothing that says you can't use a 2014 wizard. Remember, and I'll tell this to everybody, folks, this game belongs to Wizards of the Coast, says Wizards of the Coast on the thing, right? Okay. It does not belong to Wizards of the Coast. It belongs to your table.
That's right.
So you do
100%.
you. You do whatever you want. If you want to have, if you, as a DM, want to have only 2024 character, there's plenty to choose from. There's plenty to choose from in this book. Trust me. If you as a DM want to go only 2024, fine. If you want to go, hey, we'll mix it up, 2014, 2024, that's fine. Whenever something gets off balance, then we default to 2024. That's
Yeah.
fine. That's basically what they're saying in here. But it is a little disappointing. All that they have really is backgrounds and species from older books. This is the paragraph, or 3 paragraphs, little.
Yeah.
Backgrounds in older D&D books don't include ability score adjustments. If you're using a background from an older book, adjust your ability scores by increasing one score by 2 and a different one by 1, or increasing 3 scores by 1. None of these increase can raise a score above 20. Similarly, species in older books include ability score increases. If you're using a species from an older book, ignore those increases and use only the ones given by your background. Also, if the background you choose doesn't provide a feat, you gain an origin feat of your choice. That's
you go.
it. But that's it.
Yeah.
There's no other mention about this backwards compatibility that there's
We're
nothing.
championing. Yeah.
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 So
As
it's
a DM, oh, go ahead.
so it's a little I just kept searching for how can I use a 20, and wizard especially, because wizards get their subclasses at 2nd level, wizards in the new 2024 get it at 3rd level. So
Gotcha.
how do you fix that? Can you fix that, or do you just go straight, just you'd have to use a 2014 wizard stats completely?
And do the other things line up like when you get a little bump at 5th and when you get a little bump at 7th, when you get a little bump at 13th?
Well, see, that's why you would have to use just a 2014 wizard.
Okay.
I don't think you could. That's why I was wondering, can you use a 2014 or 2014 subclass with a 2024 class, and it
Yeah.
doesn't look like there's any compatibility at all.
Or,
Just
you know, this
because
makes me
things are
go
just,
ahead.
you would have to go through each one individually to figure out whether that would work.
Yeah. And maybe that's what happens. You would have to have a mature table, right? A table of folks that are willing to work with each other. But maybe that's something that we discover and play with, right? Like maybe your 2024 wizard is just an advanced student. And so they picked up something at second level that, you know, Doofus the Great over here didn't get until third level because he's a little bit slower. Or, you know, maybe one of the other things that I know they changed has been to do with movement speeds on a couple of species / races. And so maybe if you're playing, you know, a new 2024 dwarf, maybe you really get to embody Gimli and they're natural sprinters and
Yeah.
they're just faster, you know,
Yeah. Yeah, you get
versus their counterparts. I don't know.
yeah, the species are not bad. I do have one kind of see. Okay, so my wife doesn't like using magic. She's just not her thing. She doesn't want to use magic. She doesn't want to use characters to use magic. But every elf uses magic now.
They have like a bonus spell, which I was trying to remember when I saw that, if that is an unearthed arcana thing that first got introduced, or if I'm thinking back to like red box basic D&D.
I don't think any races had any innate magic.
Gnomes for sure. Because you
They?
could almost get like a bonus. It was almost like having cantrips if you played a gnome illusionist in first edition.
Right, they had like a minor illusion as a
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. So yeah, drow, high elf, or wood elf. You get a cantrip, you get a spell at third level, and you get a spell at fifth level. It's like, you know, again, it's infusing magic into everything, so that everybody's magical, and magic almost means nothing. So you know, it's no longer special. There used to be a time when I was young, first edition folks, magic meant something.
Yeah.
Having magic, you had a D4 and a dagger when you started out. But by the time you got powerful enough,
if you could survive by hiding behind the fighter.
Yeah, if you could survive, you were incredibly powerful. Now everybody's got it. I think, you know, it's. In fact, actually, I remember I was listening to one podcast. Well, I get it here. Listening to a podcast, and somebody goes in and they were like, they did some kind of cantrip, like prestidigitation to do something. You know, ooh, aren't you amazed that of all them? Like they all went, we all do magic. There's absolutely nothing special about what you just did. Yeah, we all know how you did that. So. Because it is. Unfortunately, this is a world where just everybody uses magic, which means magic is no longer special.
Yeah. And this is I mean, as a grognard, I think there's a right and wrong answer to this, but in the chat, and then next time we get to talk with Aiden live or whatever, you know, I definitely want to ask some of our younger players, how do they feel about that, right? Because is it something that, you know, kind of lets them dabble across the spectrum and it really appeals to them in kind of like a video game type of way? I'm trying not to say it in a way that loads my opinion so much, you know. But for me, like, when, you know, you said it, like, it's kind of like everybody's special now, you know. And back in our day, you needed to build a party, right? Like, if you didn't have a wizard in your party, at some point, that was going to be a problem because no one else is going to be able to use a wand or read a scroll or do magic. It's the same thing with a thief. Like, if you came across a door that you couldn't bash down and it was locked, or you needed to find traps, if it was made of stone, your dwarf could help out. But otherwise, you needed to build a party, and because everybody was good at something and it was their thing, their niche, you know.
And Connor, actually, I wanted to answer because so the high elves got a free cantrip the drow were innately magic. The
This
wood
is
elves
true.
were not. The wood elves were not. They had, you could hide it, you could do things to hide and stuff, but they didn't actually have magic. So Kimberly would always love to play wood elves because they didn't have innate magic. They could hide better, and they could and all a high elf got was a free cantrip. So
Yep.
it's just, again, I love the magic. And let me tell you, the spells, we'll get into that in just a moment. I have some things I want to talk about in the spells because they're very interesting. But and I'm not saying that I love the fact that everyone's got magic, sort of. But I just think that there's other. I love the weapon specialities in this, so they make fighters a little bit more special, rogues a little bit more special. Everyone's got their own niche. So anyway, but now you're talking about a balanced party. There is a little thing here. The classic D&D party comprises a cleric, fighter, rogue, and wizard. Those 4 classes have the longest history in the game, but more importantly, they bring a balanced mix of capabilities to adventures. You're welcome to use that party setup or modify it using these guidelines. It says cleric, replace with bard or druid. Fighter, replace with barbarian, monk, paladin, or ranger. Rogue, replace with bard or ranger. Wizard,
Yeah.
replace with bard, sorcerer, or warlock. So, and again, that is, folks, the first chapter in this book, if you're an experienced player, will be useless to you.
Because we know that. We've learned from our experience, we might be able to survive with the bard because he's a jack of all trades, right? He
Correct.
can do a little bit of magic. He can do a little bit of
We don't
trap
have a
finding.
wizard, but that sorcerer will work really well. We don't have a cleric,
100%.
but there's a druid coming. That's great.
Yeah.
We got the druid, or a bard. We have a replacement for them.
For example, first season of Red Dirt, right? We didn't have a cleric, but we had a druid, and we didn't have a wizard, but we had a sorcerer. Just
and we didn't
exactly
have a
what you
fighter.
said,
We had a
right?
paladin.
We have paladin, right? So experienced folks know it can work, but you're saying that those little paragraphs in that opening chapter really will help people go, I can still we can still have a successful group.
Yeah, this opening chapter is so good. It's why I'm really excited about the DM's guide coming out in November, because if it is half as well written, it's going to be good. This book is well written. I have not not gone each little bit. I've gotten as far as cleric, as far as through the book, and then scanned over the spells, scanned over the backgrounds. I didn't go line by line like I will over the next few weeks, but what I'm seeing is, again, very well written. It is so very well written and breaks it down for any new player. And I think that there are plenty of classes and subclasses that you would not get bored. I don't think you necessarily have to go through Tasha's or Xanathar's or the 2014 Players Handbook to find something new and interesting. You'll find some good, new, and interesting stuff here. I will say, I think the Barbarian kind of nerfs the Zealot and finally fixes the Berserker. So I can finally bring back Billy Bob the Bugbear Berserker Barbarian. Yeah, okay. Which I loved playing in Mark's thing. So yeah, we had fun with that one. Anyway, now it's a very good book. I highly recommend it, and the feats are interesting. I love they're pretty much the same. They don't seem to have done much as far as many changes. Again, that was just a quick search for them. Although I will say things like the Great Weapon Master, which was already pretty powerful itself, it has kind of nerfed it a bit, but it's given you ability score increase. Which before they was a little bit powerful, so they were so powerful they didn't give you that ability score increase. All the feats, I believe, give you that ability score increase. At least give you that.
Yeah.
I've
heard some people, on the internet, really praise the fighters. Like, as we were saying earlier, when wizards reach a certain level, they're just dominating the battlefield, and that there are some adjustments to fighters that give them, no pun intended, a fighting chance to deal out great damage as well.
Oh yeah, if they were going toe to toe with a wizard, they'd still be burned to a cinder. But
Fireball,
by
fireball,
the time
fireball.
yes, by the time you're up to, it's not even fireball, and that's the other thing. Okay, personally, like I have a love for fireball because I mean it's a classic. It's like a gelatinous cube. It's you can't get rid of it. Of course, I would say the same thing about half elves, but we won't go back to that.
A half elf throwing fire. Never mind.
But
Okay.
fireball's not really all that. I mean, it's not that great. There are better spells out there. It's just a classic, and I look it up and like, oh yeah, 8d6 of damage. Congratulations. It's I mean, what is the biggest resistance most monsters have in this game? It's fire.
Yeah. Because they know wizards love throwing fire.
So I love the mastery properties of weapons.
That's what it is.
Cleave, graze, nick, push, sap, slow, topple, and vex. Great, because there was so many times when I would have a fighter that was decked in so many weapons, and he'd use his greatsword. Why? Because that's going to do the most damage. But now when you've got these mastery properties, and I'm like, well, we're on a cliff here. I might want to push this guy. So I'm going to use, what do we got here? A pike.
Yeah.
That has the push 100%. Ability. Or a great club that has the push ability. So, I'm as Billy was wont to say, tactics. It is all about tactics for a fighter now, because that's what a mage is all about. That's what a magic user is all about. Is setting up the battlefield. That's what any magic user should be doing, is setting up the battlefield. Or any wizard magic user. Clerics and druids should be out there healing and stuff, but especially for your wizards, they should be setting up the battlefield. This helps the warrior do the exact same thing.
Yep.
And so
a little kind of hidden teaser in what in effect is campaign 3 of Red Dirt. Johnny is going to be playing a character that what we're talking about right here could be a wizard, could be a fighter, could be something else, right? The ability to choose some feats and build a character that's going to do some things as far as tactics. I'm super excited about seeing this character in play when it comes out. Yeah. So it's going to be fun.
There's a lot of fun. There's, the classes, the subclasses in here. I don't think you would get bored. I'm a little disappointed in the number of backgrounds. There are, what are there, 10?
Did they stick with the same 10?
There are 16. They've added a few, and they've taken out a whole bunch. There's the acolyte, the artisan, the charlatan, the criminal, the entertainer, the farmer. The farmer's a new one. Guard, I think, is a new one.
Yeah.
Guide, hermit, merchant, noble, sage, sailor, scribe, soldier, wayfarer. Which wayfarer I think is your equivalent to your outlander.
Or was there outlander and wanderer? Were there both of those?
Fey wanderer.
Fey Wander. There we go. Thank you very much.
But as far as I think, Wayfarer is your outlander. That's your traveler.
Yep.
So there's not quite as many as there were before. Again, this opens it up for splat books or for third parties to come out with these. This is a start to the 2024 rules. So I don't think there's quite a lot in here. Again, there's only 4 subclasses per class. You've only got the 12 classes. I'm just a little disappointed they could have probably added some more classes. I would have liked to have seen, the witch class in Pathfinder that you're paying in Wayfinder Legends.
So much fun.
Much fun. It'd be fun to see kind of things like that, but that can all come out later in splat books. But there's plenty to choose from here. Now, was a little disappointed. In the 2014 book, there was a little tiny section on how to create your own background.
Yes.
It's not in here. And it's a little disappointing. I mean, again, we're not... Out of all the space in this book, and this thing's heavy. This thing is huge. It's the size of the Dungeon Master's Guide of the
Sweet.
2014 Dungeon Master's Guide. So it's well worth the $50, without a doubt.
Yeah.
But with all that space, you'd think they could have added again a paragraph about half breeds.
Right.
It's a horrible thing to say. That's why I know. But that's why they don't want to say it. Because
Right.
it's a horrible thing to say. We don't say things like that anymore. So I understand. But again, classic part of D&D. And a little bit of paragraph on how to create your own background. Because
Yeah.
okay, so a little bit of a talk about my third campaign 3 character. None of these backgrounds really work for my campaign 3 character.
And I feel like you ought to be able to go back and kind of follow the parameters of how to build one and a custom one.
That one little paragraph where it talks about how do you go, if you use an old background, it would have been nice to be in the book.
Yeah.
As sticklers they're staying with these rules and trying to teach everybody these rules, it would have been nice if they'd said, oh, by the way, if you want to make your own background, here's a little, not long, well, I mean, I don't think it's that long in the Player's Handbook. I think it's like that long, and then bada bing, you're done with that. So they could have done that. It would have been nice. I hope you're watching the chat because I'm missing all of it.
Yep. Every now and then. Oh, well, yeah. So there's some grognards in there that are having a good time. And that's good. So
I'm sorry. I just looked. Psionics are gay too. What the?
Hey, if they make you happy, it works, right?
Yeah, and now I do remember the old Psionics was in the back of the Player's Handbook.
Uh-huh.
And it was
the original, as someone said, the original break the game, right?
Oh, right, and right behind how to make a bard.
A bard, which again we could grognard on that get 10 levels,
five levels of fighter, 7 levels of rogue, a level of druid, I believe, and then you could be a bard.
And then you could be a bard, right? What is back in my day? Now you just start first level as a bard, which is actually brilliant. So
yeah. So everything, the equipment, the weapons, the armor, it looks word for word. Now I haven't grabbed my 2014 players and really gone side by side on these, but just what I'm thinking. I think the prices. Plate mail's 1,500 gold pieces. It's all. I mean, everything. Your medium armor, you get up to 2 of your AC, plus 2 on your AC. It's
so here's a grog nerd, like kind of nostalgic question, but also maybe important because you talk the first part of the book is really good for new players. In the equipment section, do they tell what things are? Like, what if I don't know what a halberd is? What if I don't know what a glaive is?
Not only that, they have really, and obviously we can't show you any pictures. There is a spread of all of the weapons, pictures, and well drawn. The art in this book is mind blowing.
Some of that's been released, and I hear it, and I've seen it, and it's just fantastic.
But they have pictures of the warhammer, the rapier, the short bow, the and they're broken down: simple weapon, simple melee weapon, martial melee weapon, martial range weapon. So they've all broken down and pictures of them, so you've got a good idea. Then of course, yes, just and the pictures of the armor,
awesome,
which is really good. I mean, these are good artwork, just amazing.
Unearthed Arcana had a second, in between, like 1.5 edition, whatever you want to call it. Unearthed Arcana had that spread. I think it was all pole arms. It was like a 2-page spread of just pole arms with all these different types of pole arms. And Nerd Me loved that, right? First edition Oriental Adventure comes out, and they've got, again, maybe like 3 pages of what do these different armor types look like, because they're using some Japanese and Chinese terminology for armor that, maybe a 14-year-old Western kid, Oklahoma kid, didn't know what Domaru armor was. And so those pictures and descriptions were fantastic.
Yeah. Now, I think looking at this, they do have pistols in here, which I don't think is listed in because it's just the DM's guide. But for the most part, it looks exactly the same as 2014 as far as the damage, the prices, the weights, everything. It's the mastery that does it. Again, so I can be loaded as a fighter with just tons and tons of weapons, but they all do different things depending on what it is I want to do.
Yeah.
It's so wonderful. The mastery is gonna change the game for any of your martial classes. Any of your martial classes could be.
Did I distract us from you when you were about to give a little clue about a third campaign 3 character?
Maybe. No, that was all I was gonna give.
Okay, very good.
But again, the only thing is, I do have a background, but I might have to make my own background.
That's what it was. You may have to tweak your background to make it work.
Because it'd
be great.
Yes, and although I wish it had been rules in here. I'm a little disappointed they didn't just give me a paragraph of how to do it. I know how to do it, and again, granted, if you've never played this game before and you're picking up this book for the first time, there's so much that you will love about this book. It will walk you through everything. Easy to read, pretty pictures. I've picked up some players' manuals where it is just words. Oh, look, a table. Words. Like,
That's called the first edition Dungeon Master's Guide.
Oh gosh, yes. And that's why I'm very excited about the DM's Guide coming out in November. So I think it's going to be really good.
Yep.
So
now, Michael, if I put on my tinfoil conspiracy hat, kind of grognard grumble for a moment, do you think they don't mention some of the create your own aspects because they won't have those things available to build or to choose from on D&D Beyond? Do you think it's a funnel of we've only got these choices for you?
It's possible. I don't know. That's going to be interesting. I think that I can tell you right now that the fact that they do have a character sheet in here. Not one that you can photocopy. It's a little disappointing.
Okay.
But it's but they do have a brand new character sheet. This new character sheet exists. Obviously can't show it to you, but you can see it online. There are pictures of it online. You just can't. They haven't released them yet.
Gotcha.
But it's pretty. It's only 2 pages. Because that second page, folks, how many people use that second page?
Only the nerds.
Character description, allies, enemies. No, you can do everything you need to do on these 2 pages. There are going to be people that are upset with the fact.
That's a throwback to the first edition, like pamphlet that was like this page, and you had enemies and will and testament, and you had spells. And then, remember that folio of a character sheet.
I could do my character sheet on 1 sheet of paper. And I knew how straight. I had all the ability scores right there, names, and I had it all set up and everything.
How many times did we grab a sheet of paper and do that?
Start making a character.
Bam, bam, bam.
Yeah.
Nerds.
Now, there are going to be people who are going to be a little bit upset because, and I've heard about this online, that on the new character sheet, the skills are not listed straight alphabetically. They are listed under their ability score. So under strength, it has athletics. Under dexterity, it has acrobatics, sleight of hand, stealth. Now, some people like it say in alphabetical order. I've had so many different character sheets that differ. So I can go either way. I kind of like it being toward the ability score. So anyway.
I can see how that, once you know the rules a little bit, I can see how that'll be super handy because you just go, boom, athletics underneath strength. If you don't know yet, I can see where that would leave a newbie like looking all over the page trying to find out where it's at. But you know.
Yeah, but I think I think it puts it to where like I go, insight. Okay, that's under wisdom. That's a wisdom score, which you could easily get that with the old Players Handbook or the old character sheet has WIS right next to it. So
yeah,
it was wisdom. But it might be easier to fill it out too, because if you don't have any proficiency in anything, you just put the plus as you do as your wisdom. So
Billy the Bugbear Barbarian Berserker just has to worry about the strength bubble that's up there on the character sheet, right?
What's the link are you looking for? Oh, here.
Oh,
Let me
okay,
see.
okay.
Uh, Car,
For the
Car,
character.
because I
Connor
had,
says it doesn't matter where it's at; he won't be able to find it on the character sheet when he needs it anyway, right? We
yeah,
all have that blindness that
yes,
happens when you're
exactly.
trying to look for it. And you're like, "Where'd it go?" It's right there. That happened to me at Wayfinder Legends recording just this past weekend. I was looking for my flat proficiency bonus, and I was looking all over the sheet for it, and it's right there in proficiency, big giant letters, and my eye went over it 19 times, just went right by it, didn't
Yeah.
even find it. It
Um,
was so dumb.
yeah, and for some reason I don't know why, but the mobile D&D Beyond doesn't have the proficiency bonus listed
Ah,
anywhere on the characters. Or I think it's in the on page 5 or something like that. It's really kind of silly, but I'm trying to find these characters, see if I can find images, because there are images,
gotcha.
but um, I mean, obviously they're not the DPDFs. So here's a, but because so you can kind of get an idea of them. I'll share this in the.
Awesome.
You can just copy and paste that. Um, but that's just kind of a picture of them. So it just kind of gives you an idea of them. They're again not the PDF. They're just a picture of them. But yeah, it's using basically the all the information you need on one and spells and a little bit of background and stuff on the other. So you get the fact that it's on 2 pages again, good. I finally figured out how to. It should be streamlined. It's I don't want to be carrying 5-6 piece paper with me.
Yeah.
Of course, I always got to carry my will and testament as well. So.
Is that with paladins only, or with any of your?
Yeah, actually, paladins especially. I leave my horse too. Oh, too soon.
oh, it's celestial. That's just going back to Nirvana. The horse doesn't really belong to you.
So very quickly, spells.
Spells.
I did not look through all of the spells because I don't have time. I am a little disappointed. I have this big box. You see that back box there?
Yeah.
Of
Yeah.
all my spell cards.
Yeah.
Thousands are now worthless.
What?
All the spells the spells have changed.
What?
I mean, now I'll have to go through and figure out which spells, whether or not they've actually changed. But for the most part, yeah. And let's just start with let's go to Cure Wounds, shall we? You've used Cure Wounds. What is Cure Wounds? Off the top of your head, you know what it is? What's your healing?
Cure Light Wounds, 1d8, right? Cleric,
it's not
lay
Cure
on
Light
hands.
Wounds anymore. We don't use Cure Light Wounds. It's just Cure Wounds. Go back to your for AD&D. That's first edition Cure Light Wounds. I remember that one.
It's like the ability scores for me, right? Their strength. It's not. They're not grouped in a logical way that 5th edition does it with the physical stats and the mental stats, right? It's strength, intelligence, wisdom, dexterity, constitution, charisma.
Yes, right? And comeliness.
And comeliness when you get to Unearthed Arcana.
So 1d8 is your Cure Wounds it's 2d8 now.
What? Why?
They made them more powerful.
Are the monsters going to be more dangerous?
I don't know. But
or we just want people to be able to live long. Hit points haven't changed, have they? Do we still get
Nope, it's all the same. But
okay.
But Cure Wounds is now 2d8, and for every level above, the spell slot above 1, it's another 2d8. So that's a lot.
Man, that's a lot of healing.
That's a lot of healing. Healing Word is now Healing Word. First off, I think it's 2d4.
It's currently 1d4, right? 1d4 plus 1.
And the new one is 2d4, plus your spell casting ability modifier, and every one over 1 is another 2d4. So, and it's 60 feet away. I think the current Healing Word isn't only 30 feet.
I think that's true.
So it increases the range and increases the amount that you can heal. So right off the bat, your healing is a little bit better. Of course, you go over to Fireball. It has not changed. It is the exact same thing it's always been.
At least they made their wisdom check with that, right? Like you change Fireball or Magic Missile, and people could use Mage Hand to pick up their pitchforks, right? Because they are gonna be, how dare you, right?
Yeah. Now, one of the ones that I was a little disappointed they didn't change, and it's weird that I would want this change, but I really wanted this change because it was in the one D&D guidance.
Yeah.
In the one D&D, it had you give the 1d4 to a skill, but you could only do one each. Only one character could be done once per long rest.
Yes.
Okay, they didn't do it. They just couldn't pull that trigger. All it is you touch a willing creature and choose a skill until the spell ends. It's 1 minute. The creature adds 1d4 to any ability check using this chosen skill.
There you go.
And
go ahead.
I use guidance all the time, but Aiden and I totally agree. It is an overused cantrip. It is constantly, yes, guidance. You get a guidance.
So, Fallen from the Wayfinder Legends podcast, I got Fallen in trouble
for using guidance wrong.
I was, and Tim in the Discord server, our Pathfinder demigod in the Discord server, it was like the third episode. Tim was like, "Hey, guidance is only once per hour, right?
Yeah.
There's an hour cool off time." Yeah, and it's really, and it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
And
I had
to
is it
Tim,
just a
I was
one?
like,
Is it just one? It's just an extra. It's just a +1.
Yeah, and it's just a +1, but all the numbers are really small in Pathfinder, which in Pathfinder 2e, all the numbers are really small. Pathfinder First Edition, people call it Mathfinder because there's so many bonuses, right? But we'll go off on that tangent, but yeah, I mean, I was doing guidance like crazy, and I had to tell Tim in the Discord chat, I was like, yeah, we record about 4 episodes at a time, so we didn't catch that for a while.
Yes, I know. It's like you had like episodes 5 before you went, by the way, we've been doing it wrong.
Yeah.
But so I do.
They didn't change that though. So.
Yeah, they didn't. Yeah, guidance. It's a little disappointing. I was hoping that you could restrain my clerics or my druids or anybody who had. And there's other classes that have guidance.
Or your warlock.
Because I use it all the time. I'm constantly using guidance because it's a free 1d4. So
the phrase that you, Michael Cross, might say at the Red Dirt table most often is, "Can I give myself guidance?"
And Aiden and I try to rein that back in, and I rein myself in. If I don't feel like I could have given myself guidance, like I'm going to go unlock a door, or Beatrix is going to unlock a door, I'll give guidance. If we're 100%. Surprised, roll an acrobatics check. Well, I'm going to go, no, I would have had time to give myself guidance on that one, So, okay. So very quickly, conjure. Let's go real quick to conjure, because conjure and summon are probably your biggest changes in the ones where people will probably be the most upset.
Oh.
Yeah. Basically, you conjure nature spirits or spirits from the upper planes who give you things. They don't if you conjure animals.
Yeah.
You conjure nature spirits that appear as a large pack of spectral animals.
Yeah.
They give you advantage if they're within 5 feet as pack tactics, but conjure animals in the 2014 is a whole bunch of velociraptors.
Yeah. Right. They become like little celestial animal companions that can jump in and help you.
Conjure Fae, you bring in a bunch of sprites that can polymorph everything. I mean, it's so they no longer do that. Now it's a set thing of what happens.
Huh.
So
that's very interesting.
Yeah, I actually like it because I don't have to sit here and go, okay, you just pulled out 8 velociraptors on me that can basically swarm me like velociraptors.
Like velociraptors would. Those little baby velociraptors in Jurassic Park.
Yeah. So also then we go to summon. Summon is very interesting. Again, you summon these spirits, but they actually have stat blocks for these spirits. It's not a random you pick whatever it is you want. There's the spirit. There it is right there. So I kind of like it. I don't know how other people are going to feel about it, how they feel about conjure or summon spells, but I like the fact that these are in here. That it's all very simple. I think the spells are going to be very no nonsense, and that goes all the way up to what is the most powerful spell in the book?
Got to be Wish.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Wish has been changed.
Go on. What?
I know. So, because this will take up
get 3.
This will take up the last of it. So it's still level 9.
Right.
So, Wish, and it says, Wish is the mightiest spell a mortal can cast. By simply speaking aloud, you can alter reality itself. The basic use of this spell is to duplicate any other spell of level 8 or lower. If you use it in this way, you don't need to meet any requirements to cast that spell. That includes costly components. The spell simply takes effect. So this is how it's supposed to be in the first place. But this spells it out.
Yeah.
You know, if you want to go ahead and say, I want to use Wish to cast Heal. I don't know if Heal's 8th level or not, but you get my idea. Power Word, I didn't think Power Word kills level 9.
But it doesn't cost the material component to do that?
Right.
That's pretty cool.
Yes. So, boom, you've got that. Now, alternatively, here's where it gets weird. You can create one of the following effects of your choice. Object creation. You create one object of up to 25,000 gold pieces in value that isn't a magic item. The object can be no more than 300 feet in any dimension, and it appears in an unoccupied space that you can see on the ground. That's 1. 2, instant health. You allow yourself and up to 20 creatures that you can see to regain all hit points, and you end all effects on them listed in the Greater Restoration spell. Resistance. You grant up to 10 creatures that you can see resistance to one damage type that you choose. This resistance is permanent.
That's crazy.
Spell immunity. I know. You grant up to 10 creatures you can see immunity to a single spell or other magical effect for 8 hours. Sudden learning. You replace one of your feats with another feat for which you're eligible. You lose all the benefit of the old feat and gain the benefit of the new one. You can't replace a feat that is prerequisite for any other feat or features. Roll redo, which seems... though almost every one of these kinds of seems kind of a waste of a wish.
Right.
Except for that resistance one, which is pretty powerful. Reshape reality.
Okay.
You may
There's
wish.
the one I'm looking for.
You may wish for something not included in any of these other effects. To do so, state your wish to the DM as precisely as possible. It is. The DM has great latitude in ruling what occurs in such an instance. The greater the wish, the greater the likelihood that something goes wrong. This spell might simply fail. The effect you desire might be achieved only in part, and it goes on. It just goes on about this. Okay, so here's the final paragraph, though. The stress of casting Wish to produce any effect other than duplicating another spell weakens you. After enduring that stress, each time you cast a spell until you finish a long rest, you take 1d10 necrotic damage per level of the spell.
Go ahead. You're not finished.
I'm not. This damage cannot be reduced or prevented in any way. In addition, your strength score becomes 3. 3, not plus 3, 3 for 2d4 days.
What?
For each of those days that you spend resting and doing nothing more than light activity, your remaining recovery time decreases by 2 days. So you really can recover to get it back. But if you're out adventuring and it's early morning and you just cast Wish and used anything besides just doing a spell, you're going to spend the rest of that day. You could die.
100%.
Finally, there is a 33% chance that you are unable to cast Wish ever again if you suffer this stress. Roll a percentile dice. If you get a 33 or less, you can never cast wish again.
As a guy, giving my history of dice, that's a big percentage to be low like that.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
I mean, I gotta say, part of me, the grognard in me, really likes that.
I think it is amazing.
Because remember, again, we're grognarding tonight. Old school first edition, to cast wish cost you experience points.
Yeah.
You could actually cast wish and go down a level, and then it also, it depend on how you played around your table, but it also took life from you. Like, it took years off of your character's life, right?
Yeah.
So, man,
yeah, they finally first off the fact that they spelled it out. There is no ambiguity here in this wish spell in 2024. So kudos to Wizards for actually spelling out what wish should be. I think it's wonderful.
yeah.
Of course, if I got to be a level 9 sorcerer wizard, I would just be casting this resistance on
100%
every day on my players.
Yeah.
Because
give yourself about 3 weeks to get ready for the big battle. We need 3 weeks of downtime, and I'm going to cast those resistances on people, and then hope that I don't
roll 33 right now.
Roll 30 before we're done, right?
But if you go, hey, I'm gonna do one resistance on some kind of damage, and then if I haven't even thrown, at least we've got 17th level and higher characters that are resistant.
Yeah.
So
the scary part is that you're gonna have big bads that have wish spells, right?
Yes.
And so they could really beef themselves up, or their minions. Could you imagine? You got that moment where you've knocked down all the undead around the bad guy, and then he casts a wish spell to restore his 10 or 20 minions back to full health. And you're like, holy crap.
Of course, then he has a strength of 3, and
this is true.
So, and any spell he casts does damage to himself too. So there was another one in here that I wish I could remember. Vicious Mockery is now 1d6 instead of 1d4.
Yeah.
So
the word on wish really took a turn I wasn't expecting, because what I was seeing so far in the things you mentioned about spells was really empowering the player character. And with the healing spells, it's like, are we just never going to have anybody die? Because that's really, really powerful. Unless the damage from monsters is going up as well. I don't know.
I don't think the damage from monsters is going to go up as much, but it just makes the clerics a little bit more special, I think.
Now that's a good point.
And because that's the problem, is that healers, if you're doing nothing better than a healing potion, what's your use of you?
That's just true.
So
takes an action, blah blah blah.
Yeah,
but other than that, yeah,
I think it's going to make the clerics a lot more special. I think, and turn toward more healing. I think, unfortunately, where we're going for a long time for clerics is they were basically paladins who cast better spells.
Yeah, for sure.
I think it's going to go back to, with your light and life subclasses. They're going to go back to being, and of course you still got your war cleric.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I think they're going to try and go back to the clerics and the druids that heal on a more regular basis and become better healers.
And we've seen that in the finale to campaign 1 in Red Dirt, and then in other stories that people probably know out there, that if you have a cleric who is just keeping the fighter in the fight, who's just buffing, then that party synchronicity becomes really hard for the bad guy to overcome.
Right. Because
they've got one person that's just pumping energy into the rest of the team, and it's the big bad's in trouble, right? So
So it is already after 8 o'clock.
Oh,
I knew we were going to talk about other
8:05.
things, but I didn't want to talk about anything else because I had this book from Gen Con. And again, thanks to Rob and Karen Steele for going to. And you should see their table of games. They've just bought. I mean, it's just we're so excited. And again, we play with them. We'll play with them again tomorrow night. So, but the book is very good. We could talk about it more. There's so much more. Especially, I'd love to have Aiden and Johnny on to talk about 100%. These. So we'll talk about more in 2 weeks. In the meantime, make sure to check out Wayfinder Legends is now here on YouTube.
Yeah,
excited about that. Of course, along with Red Dirt D&D, Mysteries of Beatrix, the Red Dirt Outlaws. Red Dirt Outlaws is about to possibly change over to something new. So keep track of that one.
Wrapping up Keys.
Yeah. Keys from the Gold Vault. Yep.
Yeah.
So and maybe something new from Red Dirt D&D. So keep track of that one too. Some changes going on there. Lots of stuff going on. We love talking to you. Find us on social media. Find us at reddirtdnd.com and get us patreon.com/reddirtdnd. I'm Michael Cross.
I'm Brooke Bullock.
All right. See you guys.